witnesses, Ms. Graham and Mr. Cregan. I know we've had ongoing engagement on many issues in relation to my constituency of Wicklow, but just to welcome all our witnesses here this morning. I just want to follow up on the issue there around Go Ahead, which will be of no surprise to Mr. Cregan and Ms. Graham, because we've had plenty of conversations on Go Ahead's performance right across the state, but particularly in Wicklow. And just when the licence was issued to Go Ahead, it was back in 2018. Am I right in saying that?
It's not a licence, it's a contract.
Contract, 2018.
There was a tender competition, and they were the winning tenderer, and a contract was issued. So it's a public services contract. It's completely different to a licence.
And initially it was for 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah.
5 years. Okay, and I know you would, I suppose, argue the point. I would say it is the privatisation of bus routes, and I stand over that. And certainly the evidence shows that the privatisation of these routes has failed. And I just wanted to ask about the performance-related fines. Can you, in 2018, do you have the figures of fines that were imposed on Go Ahead?
I haven't got those fines, the 2018 fines. I can certainly make them available to you.
2019, would you have to?
I haven't brought the
you don't
table
have any.
of fines.
But I suppose the widely publicised fines 2021, it was 437,000, just over that. Would I be right in saying that?
If you're taking it from our material, I'd say that is correct, yeah.
2022, the widely publicised figures are over 3 million. Am I right in saying that?
I think we'll have that figure now. Thank you. So in 2022, and is it Go Ahead that you're referring to, or in the total?
Yep.
So Go Ahead in 2022, it was 2.4 million deductions for 2022. Go Ahead Outer Dublin Metropolitan Area. Go Ahead Dublin Commuter Outer Metropolitan Area was 0.6 million. Dublin Bus at the same time, deductions of 8 million over the same period.
Who provide a lot more services than Go Ahead, and focusing solely on Go Ahead. So over 3 million in fines. Do you have the figures for 2023?
For 2023, we have the first 2 quarters, so we haven't finalised the full deductions. So for 2023, the first half of the year, Go Ahead 0.388 million for the Outer Dublin Metropolitan Area, and 0.51 for the Dublin Commuter Outer Metropolitan Area. Dublin Bus 4.5 million.
Okay, who provides
Bus Éireann 1.5 million.
Far more routes. So nearly $1 million in fines, and that's despite ongoing rhetoric.
Sorry, not $1 million. 1.5, half a million in 2023 for 2 quarters.
It was 0.3 and 0.5.
0.15.
Okay. So despite all of the rhetoric that Go Ahead had issues and they were going to improve their services and that, still we see a substantial amount of fines being levied on them. Would you view that as
yeah, they also operate services in the Outer Dublin Metropolitan Area, which has a lot less bus priority available to them than their equivalent operator, Dublin Bus, where at least 30% of their kilometres are operated on with bus priority. So, you know, to meet the punctuality, which is a higher punctuality target, actually that Dublin Bus operate to, naturally enough, you know, it is more difficult for them to reach that target.
The lived experience, and I can speak from a Wicklow perspective, the 3 routes that were handed over to Go Ahead, the 185, the 184 and the 45A, throughout the years since Go Ahead have taken it over, there's been, you know, consistent failures to provide you know, a service that's fit for purpose. I can tell, and I've given you so many stories of different people, how it's impacted on them, left waiting on buses that never show up, buses that simply disappear from the live timetabling, and so many stories.
And we have acknowledged
the concern I have, absolutely. So in 2023, when the 5-year contract was up, what happened at that stage?
So we extended the contract further, and we have for the 2
So we
additional
acknowledged
years.
the serious failings.
Yes,
and there
but
was
I
an
also
opportunity.
acknowledged the fact that we were going through a COVID pandemic for the majority of the operation of that contract, as were other operators. So to isolate an operator that, in terms of its operations and not compare it to what other operators were suffering at the same time, which was very significant reduction in their driver numbers
as I see
and a
it,
very difficult operating environment
as I
through the
see it,
pandemic.
And the people that are contacting me, those issues were post-COVID now, and those issues are still, happening on those routes that I'm speaking about here.
And we
so there was
acknowledge
an
that
opportunity to address it, but a decision was taken by the NTA to extend the contract for go-ahead, reward them for their failings. Would I be right in saying that?
But we also would have direct awarded with Dublin Bus through that period as well, also even on the basis of the fact that they also had failings within their contract in terms of performance.
Just in relation to Bus Connect, which has the potential to provide a brilliant service, and again in my own constituency there's new routes being rolled out, the L1, the L2, the L3 and other routes providing critical local public transport routes. I'm really concerned that those new routes have been handed over to go-ahead to operate. So was there a tendering process for those new routes for go-ahead? Were Dublin Bus given the opportunity to provide the service on those routes?
Well, as we are doing a network delivery of services, so the networks are changing for both Dublin Bus and Go-Ahead. And what we're doing is reflecting the size of the contracts that both operators have in this new network. So there's a bit of give and take. They may lose in other parts that they are operating in, and they're gaining in terms of these routes. Similarly, Dublin Bus, there's been swaps in terms of who delivers certain parts of the network, but the overall intent
there is a real concern there that given the failures of Go-Ahead to put in place, a service that people can rely on, there's huge concerns that, the lessons haven't been learned, and that by rewarding them and giving them additional routes, we're going to be left with a continuation of further bad routes.
We don't accept that, Deputy Brady, because as you've indicated, you call this privatisation of the routes. It's not. It still retains. These are public service contracts that the authority manage.
Operated by a service provider that has a very, very questionable track record
what
both
the current
in the UK
performance rate is for Go-Ahead. I just asked Jeremy just to respond on that.
Maybe if you could furnish that.
No, I think we need to record it.
I'm just in the last 2 minutes.
I just want to move in. The answer is 97%.
I just want to move on to another area, and that's the complete underinvestment in our rail infrastructure. And particularly I want to talk about the Rosslare to Dublin rail line that is absolutely not fit for purpose. And again, this is something that I've raised on a number of occasions. I mean, on a daily basis, both pre-COVID and post-COVID, there's 6, rail, journeys a day that stop at the train station in Wicklow Town, for example. Every morning the 7:30 train is full to capacity. There's standing room only. And I've raised this time and time again. We've been told that there's additional carriages ordered, and that particular rail line may get additional carriages. So there's huge concerns there in terms of the lack of investment, and certainly anything I'm hearing from the NTA, there's no assurances that that investment will be forthcoming to deal with the major challenges on that particular route. So what are the plans to increase capacity, to increase the frequency of the rail service on that particular line?
Hugh to respond to that.
I know you're aware of some of this, Deputy, but there are a couple of projects that are advancing to address or to ultimately provide a much better service along that line, certainly as far as Wicklow, and then a different arrangement potentially south of that. So as you're aware, there's a part of the DART Plus programme. There's a plan to try and get 3 darts an hour to Greystones. At the moment it's limited to 2 an hour. I think even more significantly, the intention is to extend one of those darts per hour to run to Wicklow Town on a battery basis. So that project is advancing with Irish Rail. It is a couple of years from completion, but fleet has been ordered, and that has the potential to come in a few years.
So I'm just conscious of the time, and I appreciate there is a broader, bigger piece of work being looked at. But what people need is the investment here and now, and to put an additional couple of carriages at the end of a train that's going through the train stations on a daily basis. Surely we don't need consultants to look at that. We don't need a broader, longer piece of work to do something very, very basic, such as put a couple additional carriages onto a train. People are voting with their feet. They're no longer taking that train. They're sitting in their cars on the N11 on tailbacks, getting longer and longer on a daily basis because of the failure of the NTA to put in, basic investment into our rail infrastructure, something that could be done straight away.